It's time for the movie rate, and tonight's victim is actor Vernon Wells. I played in some various films such as Sunset, Commando, Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, Inner Space, and many others. Hello.
Hi there, Mike. How are you?
Fantastic. I'm actually still warm now. What's going on?
Not much, actually. I'm just sitting in my office talking to you on the phone. You know, I'm getting ready to move, well, not to move, but to fly out in the next week to Georgia to start on a film up there. Then I got to fly to Florida for another one, so I'll be doing a couple of films in the next couple of months. Just finished a project called Rom-Com, which is about a young lady who all the people around her who have kind of done anything to her at any time, like her ex-husband, her ex-boyfriend, her ex-boss, anything like that, start turning up dead very badly. And in that I play a cop as well, trying to figure it out. I play one of two cops. It's actually sort of a comedy horror. It's a lot of fun. It really is. It's a lot of fun. I can't tell you who the killer is because that would spoil the whole film. But you would be totally stunned at the whole thing. They have this really weird sense of humor. The gentleman that wrote it and is directing it, a little twisted, but it's kind of fun. And there's one that's out now, actually. It's all over the internet. You can get it on Netflix and everywhere, called Trouble Is My Business, which is sort of harks back to the 1940s film noir, which I did, which we just won Best Picture at a very large movie convention 2 weeks ago. It's doing exceedingly well. I have a film in Australia that's just come out called Landfall, in which I play another cop. I've started playing cops and everything. It's just ridiculous. I've gone from being everybody's ultimate killer to playing a cop in everything. But it's kind of fun. I play a very dirty cop. It's not a nice man, but that one's really, really tight, really psychological drama, really good. It's just come out in Australia and it'll probably come over here, I'd say, within the next 3 months or so. And there's a few others that are sort of hanging around that haven't dropped into release yet. That's kind of where I'm at the moment.
Compared to all the characters you used to play, how is this is this a big shift change for you in a long while?
It's, you know what, it's not... It is a shift change. Now it doesn't worry me. Now I just get out there and do my job. When I first got asked to do it, which is quite a few years ago, a good friend of mine, a director, and he was doing a film called Jekyll and Hyde with Tony Todd, and he wanted me to play Tony Todd's best friend, who is the other doctor in the film, who is the one who figures out what's going on and tries to protect Tony, but ends up not protecting him, but actually is probably more the catalyst to his end. And that was kind of very hard for me because I was going from playing all these very deep-rooted villains into playing this hero, so on that side of the scale, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know how to do this because I've never played I've always played the other side of the fence. And the biggest fear I had was that when you play a villain, it's very easy to get inside a villain's head and to get inside the nature of a villain simply because it's not you. Well, you hope it's not you anyway. And you create a character, you create the persona, you create everything that goes with that character, and so you can base it on characters from our society, characters from our past, characters that have been evil. You can base what you're doing on those characters, parts of it, but it's still not you. It's based on other things. But when you play when you play a hero, then a certain amount of that persona is yours. There's a certain amount of you that becomes part of the character you're playing. So what you're doing is putting yourself front and center on the screen. And that's a little scary sometimes because you think, oh my God, now I'm out there and everybody can see who I am. And it takes a little bit to get used to. But if you start off doing that, of course, that's being the other side of the coin, then you don't have that same fear because that's all you're used to. But I didn't start off doing that. I started off being these very larger-than-life villains who became iconic characters in certain films. And that sort of was a big place to come from to become a hero type. But now I love it. Now I sort of vacillate between the two. I'm either playing the hero today and the villain tomorrow, or I'm playing a priest. And so, later on in the year, I'm playing a priest. There's a film. Oh, and another film that's just come out. It's called Death House, in which I play one of the five evils just a grotesquely evil human being, and they're doing a sequel to it, and I'll be in that as well. So I go into the evil. I still do the evil part and the villains, which is wonderful. But I do a lot of quite a lot more good guys, I would say, than I do villains. But I always try to put a little twist into the good guy as well. I like to make them interesting. I don't like them to be these hand-cut, cookie cutter, as they say, versions of a good guy. I like them to have a soul and an attitude and have foibles like every one of us do. So I have a little fun with them. I never sort of make them straight. That's the way I am now. I enjoy it. I've got those coming out and a couple of other films coming out in which I play very, very nasty people. And then a lot of films coming out where I play, like, the good guys.
Yeah, and playing villains, I mean, it's same thing as a heroes, it can be quite different. I mean, some actors would place their personal feelings toward this character, but it can also be a dangerous territory as well, because you're kind of putting a little bit too personal within this character, and it just it could easily backfire as well.
Yeah, well, especially when you're doing a villain, and if it's a very psychological villain. Like, I had a lot of problems when I finished Road Warrior. Not a lot of problems. I mean, I don't want to say that and have people think, oh my God, he's a psychopath. No, I had to come down from the place I was, having played, and you have to realize that the Road Warrior was the first film I ever did. It was actually the 5th acting job I'd ever had. So I was coming into that as basically not knowing anything, a newbie to the world, a newborn baby in this business. And I played a character who was psychologically unbelievably intense, and so much going on in his eyes and his head and his body. When that finished, I had a lot of problems shifting away from that, like just sort of pushing it to the side and going, yes, well, that's over now, because I would always find little bits of it creeping into things I was doing. And it took a while for me to be able to completely void myself and divest myself of just that part of the character. Whereas these days, it's a whole different thing. I walk off the set. It doesn't matter who I've played. I can walk away from it right there. But when you first start, it's much more difficult to invest so much of yourself into the character. It's very difficult to just walk away from it and say, yes, well, I've finished with that. It doesn't let you go that easily. You have a point of where you're starting to get scared of that particular character. And a lot of actors fall into that trap. That's why there's so many actors go to drinking and into drugs and things, because those things start to haunt them. And it's just very difficult. And also, you've got a problem of, if you're playing villains, there's not a lot of romance in that particular genre. So you don't tend to get all the wonderful star coverage that everybody gives to the handsome, the handsome lead. The villain tends to be the one that everybody shunts down the red carpet and says, oh, very good to see you, Vernon. You're down the end, and then 600 people are taking photographs of the lead in the film, the guy and the girl. So you get used to all that, but it's difficult sometimes to accept that, and to accept that you don't have that same fame in its own way. I mean, now I don't care, because I do. I go to the red carpet, everybody wants to take photos of me. But it took a while to get there, and I think you've got to be strong enough to understand that it's like anything. You do your time to get to where you want to be. Nobody gives it to you on a silver platter. If they do, it doesn't stay for long. It's very tenuous. It will go away. And you have to understand that. You have to be able to say, hey, I've got to work at this. This is my job. I've got to be able to show people how good I am. You're only as good as your last job, as they say in this business. And so you've got to be prepared to be able to show people how good you are and what you're doing, and how much you're worth, and why you're doing what you're doing. And that's difficult, believe me, sometimes when you're young, when you're involved in as much as, I went through that period of, I did 5 major films in a row, one after the other, bang, 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 bang. And then I had the biggest head in Hollywood, because I thought that I'd made it, and it only took a few setbacks to make me realize that I was nobody. And that's crushing, just to be blunt. It takes a while to get over that, because suddenly you're like, well, really, I'm nobody, and nobody cares. So it's a hard life in that respect. As you go on, and you have to go on, you have to keep pushing, you have to do your job. As you go on, you begin to realize that people respect you for who you are, not for what you've done. When you walk onto that set and you're prepared and you're easy to get along with, and you talk to the crew and you talk to the other actors, and you're a happy soul, you're not walking around grumbling about everything, bitching bitching about your trailer, bitching about your costume, bitching about the fact that they haven't got Perrier water on the set, bitching about something else. When you just walk on and you're quite happy to drink tap water if you have to, and you'll change in the bloody toilet, it doesn't really matter. People start to get a whole different attitude towards you, a whole different perspective of who you are. And they want to work with you. They want to have you around because you're easy to get along with, you're easy to have on the set, and it doesn't cost them anything to have you there. And I think that's where a lot of people fail, is they forget that we're hired to do a job, and that's why we're there. We're paid and we're hired, and we should go to that job and we should do the best we can, and we should be the best person that we can be on that set so that everybody has a great time while they're working with you. So that's my whole theory right there. One thing that I've been able to do, which I guess helps me survive as much as I do, is very simply when the director at the end of the day says, cut, print, okay guys, see you tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, I leave that character in the dressing room. I walk out of that dressing room on Vernon Wells, although I can go out, talk to my friends, go and have dinner, go to the park with my dog, do whatever I want. When I come back that next morning and I walk onto that set, into that dressing room, from that second, I am the character again. I go back into who the character is, what the character is, and how the character reacts to things. And that's how I work all day. But I only have that character while I'm on the set. If we're at lunch, I'm not walking around kicking tables and carrying on like an asshole. I drop the character and I have my lunch, talk to everybody. Then when lunch is over, I go back and I do the character again. It's a hard thing to do. Most people just live inside the character, which I can't do because I did it once when I was very young, when I first started this business, and it nearly destroyed me. I think if I'd have continued the route I was on, I would have probably gone to jail for murder or for something else, because I was becoming the character. I was literally becoming the character 24 hours a day. And it was just that I had some amazingly close friends who sort of stood me up against the wall and kicked the shit out of me to make me understand that I was headed down a path that there was no reverse, and I had to get the fuck out of there right now, stop it. And they made me understand, and I realized just what I was doing, that I had become what I was portraying, and what I was portraying was not a nice thing. So you have to be very aware sometimes that you've got to be able to see the difference between fantasy and reality. And I know that it's difficult because a lot of films are based on fact, they're based on things that have happened, so there's a whole lot of reality that's in what the character is. But you still have to realize it's not you. It's somebody else. And the thing of a good actor is a good actor can absorb that. He can take it in. He can become what that character is. He can show how that character thinks. He can show everything that character does. But at the end of the day, he can leave it in the dressing room with his clothes and walk away from it and become back who he is, so that he gets that 12 hours without having to fight with that character in his brain. And then when he comes back, he can start again and get back into who he was and what he's doing and how he does it. And, that works for me. It doesn't work for everybody. I'm not saying or condoning either thing. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying I've learned that I can walk away from it and come back to it. And that suits me very well and makes me feel good that I don't have to live with that, because I portray some very sick human beings. But I must admit that sometimes I'm a little worried, because a good friend of mine said to me one day, perform these characters so well that somewhere deep in your dark recesses of your soul they lurk and you just don't know it. And I mean, he's right. To portray people that are so bad, so evil, some part of you, even though it's only a tiny little part of you, some part of you actually is like that. And that's what you draw on to bring that out. Or you've seen it, or when you were a kid, you went out and pulled the wings off a butterfly. There is something there that you know, done, have seen. Tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of your personality is that character, and you have to be aware of that. You have to be able to put that little portion of your brain and lock the door and walk away and go, I don't need that till maybe the next time someone wants me to play one of these characters, then I can let it out and see where we go with it. But it is, in this business is, I've talked to people and they say, it's so easy to be an actor and make all this money and do all these things, and you kind of look at them and you go, ever tried it? What you have to go through, what the things that you have to miss to be who you are as an actor, the continuous rejection. Not everybody becomes a superstar overnight. Very few. What is it? It's 1/10% or some bloody stupid number of actors ever become superstars, ever become that huge $20 million person. And then the movie business as we see it, and if you've looked at what's going on the last 5-6 years, is they tend to use that percentage of people, the Hemsley brothers, people like that. They're in every other movie. They keep turning up in it. Then they'll do things now that they've started doing all these films that are from the comic books. They tend to use the same cast in 6 films, one after the other, bang, bang, bang. Not a lot of people get a chance to go out and be actors in that. So what we have to rely on is getting into the smaller movies, the ones that are made by people who just want to make a good movie, who just want to make something that really stands out and is amazing. They're the films that we have to cling to and to gravitate towards, to get hold of. And that's what you do. If you do those films, you show how good an actor you are. You are actually able to put more into it, show more of your ability, and be able to adjust to all of the things around you, because you don't have all that money, you don't have all the stuff around you to make it easy for you. You actually have to get out there and do it. You've only got one costume, so don't get it dirty, dude. That kind of thing. So you really do have to be good at your craft, and you have to hone every skill that you've got, and you have to be able to get out there and work like a bloody, as they say, you've got to be in the trenches. You've got to be in one of those guys digging holes with a shovel, because that's what it's all about. And that's when you get that chance then to go into a bigger film, you shine, simply because, guess what? You've done your time, you've done your apprenticeship, you've shown who you are. Now you're making it work for you. And, if it takes time, I'm now getting everything I've worked most of my life for. Although I must admit, I didn't start acting until I was quite older than most people. I got a late start and I'm a late bloomer, and now I seem to be hitting my stride. So it's a game of numbers, and you've always got to be able to show how good you are every time you step in front of that camera, regardless. You can't think back and go, well, I had no money for 4 years, I had to sleep in my car for 3 years, all I've done is done classes and this and the other thing. You can't think about that stuff. You really can't. What you got to think about is, this is the role. I've got a chance. I'm playing this character. He's in 12 scenes, but I can make those 12 scenes bigger and better than the film. That's how you have to think, and then you have to go out there and you have to do it. Not in a bad way of destroying your co-stars, but in a way of uplifting everybody in the scenes with you, of making everybody in the scenes look wonderful, so that you have a basis to work with, and then you can just bring everything up another notch, and everybody looks at it and they go, oh my God, you see that scene where those people are doing this, that, or the other thing? That's what gets you noticed more than anything. Somebody sees that, the producer, and says, did you see that? I'm going to have that guy in my next film, or that girl, or whoever. That's how we work. And you know what? Sometimes it doesn't happen ever. There is a hell of a lot of wonderful, brilliant, amazing actors out there that never get the chance to shine. And I find it really, really annoying that people who can't act their way out of a paper tend to become stars of big movies. But that's the business. That's the way it is. Sometimes it's just, life's not nice. That's simple. But damn it, we try.
That is a huge thing, and I think, for every actor, regardless of where you're going, you have to better yourself every time, and not just, some people compete against, other actors, but it's understandable that you want to go to that route, but at the same time, you have to just better yourself to be a better actor, to be better, whatever it is you're trying to be in the film industry, because everybody in the world wants to make a mark at some point.
Oh, yeah, and you always get that chance. I always remember what my grandfather said to me. If you want to be regarded as good or the best at what you do, surround yourself with people who are better than you are. And that's the same for an actor. If you get into a scene where people are stronger actors than you are, or or you feel they are. Don't try to compete with them. Try to be as good as they are. Try to find out what they're doing that makes them so good. Then try to do that with them. Try to get into that scene and make that scene hum, because now you're as good as they are. You're in a scene that sings. The minute you start competing with people, guess what? The scene falls apart, looks like shit, and so do you. It's that simple. You can't try to do that. There's no no I in team. It's a team effort, acting. It's not an individual. It's a whole team of people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, a whole team of people that work to make those things look as good as they do, and you're just one cog in that very big wheel. And the minute you keep trying to jump off that wheel, all you're doing is upsetting the whole cog, the whole wheel. So you need to just remember that you're part of the team and work with people. I'm a voyeur, like you were saying. You didn't want to be a voyeur to me. I'm a voyeur. I watch people all the time. I watch how people interact. I watch what people do. When I'm on the set, I watch the people I'm working with. I watch people that are acting. I remember one day being in a scene with Marina Sirtis, whom I consider a brilliant actress. And she did this scene which was absolutely stunning. And when she finished, I forgot where I was and I started to applaud her. I was the guy that she was doing the scene to. I was supposed to react. I was just so taken by what she was doing. I was mesmerized. And when she finished, I just started clapping. I was like, wow, that was so cool. Like, oops, I was supposed to not do that. I was supposed to say things. But that's the way it's supposed to be, because we should appreciate when other people that we're working with are so fucking good and watch them and take a little piece from them. Every little piece that you take becomes a little piece that you can put into that memory bank, into that storeroom you've got where all the pieces of acting go. I always say to people when I'm teaching is that acting can't be taught. Acting's a God-given talent. We need someone to show you how to use that talent, which is true. That's what teachers do. And all acting is a big box, a square box. And directors, people like that, what they do is they fill that box with furniture. They don't tell you where to put the furniture. They just fill the room with furniture. Now you have to furnish the room. You have to put the television here, the chair there, the bed there, there. Now the director may say, you know what, the television shouldn't be on that wall. Television should be over here. So you go, okay, so he moves the television over there and you move the chair over there. And what you do is when you finish, you've got a fully furnished room. You did it, so you know exactly where the character's going. You know exactly what the character's supposed to be, and you've given the director what he needs for the scene to work. And that's, you don't fight people. You don't try to be smarter than people. You don't try to be better than people. You try to make the scene work. You try to make everything you do work to the best of your ability. And when you've got wonderful people you're working with, it sings, and it's so easy. The last film I did, the one we're talking about, Rom-Con, I had such a ball working. The people were just so amazing to be around, so wonderful to work. And it was only a small film, but they were just so wonderful to work with. Everybody was so giving. Everybody was just so wanting to be in the scene, wanting to lift you up, wanting to lift each other up. It was just, and everybody had ideas. How about we do this? What about, Vernon, if you do this over there and I'll do this over. It was just a collaborative effort, and it just made everything work so beautifully. And that's what it's about. Not standing on your own in a corner saying, I'm the star, don't come to me, don't talk to me, don't have eye contact with me, I'm the star. That's bullshit. People should come up and talk and discuss and try to figure out a better way of doing it, a way of making it the best it can be. And that's, to me, is what it's all about as an actor. Acting's called acting for a reason. It's called acting. That's what we do.
Yeah, and when it comes to forming relationships between actor to actor, you don't necessarily just have to go by what the director says. You have to cooperate. But, of course, these companies as well, they want their product out as well, but they want this done by this deadline. Do you think some of these companies are actually dumbing down actors in terms of quality as they're acting the character and as time goes?
Sometimes they do. And you know what? It's the general public that does a lot of that too, simply because suddenly, it's cyclic. It's like everything. Everything's cyclic. Everything goes in a circle always. And like we have one movie come out that's got Thor in it, so suddenly everybody's doing movies like that. So now suddenly we have another 2 films that are coming out that are similar. And then they do a Thor movie in basis. It's got 7 characters in it from 7 different superstar characters. And now you've got 3 or 4 different variations on that. So what you're doing is you're dumbing the whole thing down to be in reality, because you're doing the same thing time after time with just the location changed in reality and the villains changed. So you're dumbing down the characters, you're dumbing down the movie, you're dumbing down, but it makes money. You know, those movies come out and they make $150 million, $200 million, $300, $600 million worldwide, whatever. So you've got to accept the fact that that's what the business is. The business is about the people who invest their money, making their money back and making a profit. That's, you know, we have to understand that. But then you have people like 3 billboards outside Billings, wherever that won an Academy Award for the lead female this year. A brilliant movie. Little tiny movie, brilliant. Brilliant actors in it. So you have to understand that and every movie that was up for an Academy Award basically was a small movie. They were all independent features, because that's the other side of the coin. You have the side of the coin where everybody wants to make money, and they invest a lot of money to make that money, and they want that money back, and they want it to be successful, which it should be. The other side of the coin is you do small films that are independent, that are done with heart and with soul and with wonderful, wonderful actors, which still make money, don't get me wrong. They make money, and they tend to be beautifully received, and they win a lot of awards. That's where it all balances out, you know, the dumbed down thing from all of the studios and people who need to make their money back to the independents who make the movies that win Academy Awards. You accept it, and you hope to be able to get into one of those movies that may be up for an award sometime. And that's how we have to look at it, you know. I don't criticize the studios and the places that make these movies that make what we do look like it's a comic and a game. That's fine. That's making money. You know what? That keeps us in business. That keeps you talking to people like me. That keeps the studios happy. That keeps studios putting more money into movies. It's that whole game that we play, and we've got to accept it, and we've got to know that that's the way it goes. You know, you're not going to beat it. You're not going to bitch about it. You're just going to do it, and that's it.
Well, go ahead and plug in anything that you want to promote, or any release dates, or anything that's already been out that you would like to discuss one more time, or anything, websites and so forth.
Death House is starting to come out into wide release. That's got basically every wonderful villain from horror you've ever seen in your life, and it's a wonderful movie. That's starting now. Netflix, places like that. Go online. You can look for a copy and download Trouble Is My Business, a brilliant little film noir. Again, very small movie, but brilliantly done. Called Trouble Is My Business. That's out on many platforms now, so I would suggest you have a look at that if you want to see a really good movie. Rom-Com, which I've just finished, which will be out later this year. The film that came out in Australia, Landfall, which is 5 people trapped in a house during a typhoon, and none of them are who they purport to be, which is kind of an interesting film to watch. The Inquisitor, in which I play a 17th century conquistador in traveling into America looking for the Fountain of Youth. That's kind of and there's probably 6 others that I can't even think of at the moment, which are coming out or due for release. But that's generally what I've got going on. As I said, I'm off to do a couple of films, and I have the sequel to Death House and a couple of other films. There's a film called Cocaine, which I'll be doing later this year in Florida. Quite a lot of stuff happening. So, I'm a happy dude at the moment, put it that way.
Well, there you have it. That is actor Vernon Wells.